Tonight we welcome Sherri Divband, an intuitive transformational healer, an author, and founder of Aramis Creative Learning Center for youth and adult Starseeds. We're going to be diving into a bunch of different topics like 3D interference, how to navigate 3D interference in the world with all the chaos going on right now. Very important things that Starseeds need to be aware of as we are going through this ascension, awakening, as well as what is the 5D reality? How do you know when you're in the 5D reality? I'm super excited for this. Please welcome Sherri. Before we get started, if you are interested in CBD or finding a new CBD supplier, I've partnered with Hopewell Farms, and you can get 10% off this very high quality CBD. I take it every single day. It helps with meditation. It helps with my health in general, and we have 10% off with code Lily10 in the description. Also announcing the Ultimate DNA Activation Kit, which is a kit that I've included everything that I did to help activate my DNA, activate new psychic gifts and abilities, with 9 channeled sessions from the Pleiadians, Lyrans, Sirians, Inner Earth, and other beings to help you activate your DNA, raise your frequency and consciousness, align with your highest purpose and highest potential. I also have cord cutting and ancestral healing workshops, how to connect with your star family, a shorter DNA activation, and other resources available with the link in the description. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Starseed Chats. Tonight, I have Sherri Divband here with me. She has been on the show a few times. She's really well known for working with children. She's also an intuitive healer. She does sessions with adults and children. Very, very knowledgeable person. I met her through the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Conference and the Journey to Truth Conference in May. We got to meet in person, so that was awesome. But yeah, she's a really cool person, and we're going to be talking about 3D interference, how to navigate that, as well as a bunch of other things. Welcome to the show, Sherri. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's nice to come back. It's been a while, but it's good timing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very good timing, especially with the 3D interference topic. I had an experience recently over the fall equinox. So this is very, very important information. But also, I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you see going on right now? Like, you see clients, right? So you kind of like, what do you see is going on right now? There's so much going on.
Yeah, that's a loaded question, Lily. It's actually prompted me to start my 4th book because there is so much going on, and I didn't think I would be starting that for a while. But I've been learning so much through my sessions, and because I meet with people all over the world, and they're different ages, different backgrounds. I think it gives me such a broad perspective on things that are happening in other countries, and so it's interesting when you put it all together. But I think a majority of what I'm seeing is just like a lot of chaos, and our discernment is being tested. I've been saying for a while, I think a lot of the aspects of our evolution or our ascension is our ability to navigate through the 3D interference, which is why it's so significant to talk about it, to bring awareness to it, because once you're mindful to it, you're able to think about things differently. You catch it more quickly. And then you're not dragged down into it. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. A lot of people are being dragged into this low vibration caused by a variety of 3D interference. It's not just one thing. As I outlined in the book, 20 plus different things that cause 3D interference. And I even admit in the book, this isn't even everything. These are just the things that I have experienced enough that I feel comfortable talking about it, because I'm not a researcher. So it's not like I go out and I research certain topics. So I only talk about things that I have experience with. So when I have a session, I take notes with somebody and I write down, and I have a transcript of that session, kind of like a hypnotist that records it, but I don't record it. I write it down, and I'll have full 2, 3, 4 page channeled messages sometimes. And other times it's just notes of what has come through for the person. So then when I look back weeks and months later, I have thousands of pages of notes, and I can see trends, and I can see a lot of things that are occurring, a lot at the same time. And then that's when I say, okay, there's something with this. And that's when I decide to do a video or talk about it on an interview, because it's coming up. And right now, I think a lot of people are being tested with their ability to stay strong, stay diligent, and not give their power away. I think people are desperate I think part of spiritual bypassing is and I've done this, is just tell me what to do. Like, who do I trust? That surrender where you're just like, please, somebody just tell me what to do, who to trust. I don't know. I'm so confused. I thought this person was good, and then they stabbed me in the back. And then this person who hurt me seems to be coming back and is feeling remorse and like they want to work it out. And like your head feels like it's spinning, and then you don't know what to believe in the news. I mean, it's utter chaos. So I think that right now I just keep coaching people to just focus on yourself, ground, stay connected and strong with your intuition. And that will help you navigate through all of this. And then you'll be able to discern more easily and more quickly on what is truth, at least through your perception. And then perhaps not judge people as critically as you may have once done. So I think there's a lot of that going on, a lot of lies, a lot of multiple truths. And the most important thing is the multidimensionality of our reality. Say that 5 times fast. Is coming out right now. So what I mean by that is there are so many perceptions within even one person in any given moment that some of us have the ability now, many, to see all of it. And that gives us a more clear vantage point because we're looking at it from such a macro level as opposed to a micro level. And people are really digging it. They're like, wow, I really see things more clearly. And yeah, there are a lot of different angles, but it helps me develop a more clear outlook on what's going on. And I think it's actually helping a lot of people. So there's this variation of the people who are still very connected to the 3D, very bombarded by 3D interference, those waking up that are just starting to see it and are seeking help, those that have been awake for a while and are now helping others. And then the veterans that I say that have been awake their whole life and they're like, finally. And like, it's just this mixed bag of emotions going on. So that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree on the testing, even with like some of the disputes and drama that's happened within the community, which I was super shocked to discover that happens in this community. Like what? I asked Source and my star family, this was like over a year ago, but I was like, how could this happen in this community? Like, how is this happening right now? Why are people fighting? And basically it's lessons learned. There's some interference in there, but also, yeah, we're being tested on our discernment. And I also had another type of test happen over during my recent trip to Sedona, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, I definitely agree. Tested with what's going on in the news too, and the media, being grounded and looking within, super, super important right now. I wanted to ask you, we were talking a little bit before this about communicating with your guides and having discernment with that. Do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, Lily, I think it's
communicating.
Yeah. I think this is a really important topic. And I think I upset a few people about it a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I did an interview and I talked about how I got a message. I've been getting a message repeatedly through sessions at that point. So this was about a year and a half ago now, where in these specific sessions, I was being guided to tell the person, you need to find the strength within you and your connection with your intuition. Yes, because everybody always asks, I want to connect with my guides and who are my guides and what are their names and how do I connect with them? And I was getting this message repeatedly for people back to back to back. That is important, but you're not going to be able to connect to your guides until you're able to connect with yourself. Like you're skipping a level. So until you're able to trust your gut, stand in your own power, and do your own spiritual healing, and go and have the ability to go within, you're going to have a really big problem trying to discern what information is coming through that's your own authentic self, your higher wisdom, and a guide. So now fast forward, and people didn't want to hear that back then. They're like, no, I need to know who my guide is. And they were kind of resistant to what I was saying. Well, look now, a year and a half later, I've noticed this trend with the spiritual community, truthers, neighbors, friends, family, et cetera, that there are a lot of people out there that are feeling very confident that they are connecting with their guides. And maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I don't know for every case. But I see the problem. There is an issue with a lot of people using their guides now as a crutch or an excuse to do certain things, make certain decisions, speak a certain way. And it's always somebody saying something and it's followed with something like, my guides told me to do that, or my guides are encouraging me to do this. And I can tell right away when something is not your guides, because you can tell when people are speaking from ego, or they're speaking from fear, or it's a self-fulfilling, it's self-fulfilling what they're being guided to do. That they know that the other person isn't going to like what they're going to do or the decision they're going to make. So instead of taking ownership for their choice, they're saying, well, my guides told me to do that. My guides told me I couldn't talk to you anymore. My guides told me he was bad. And I feel like when people talk that way, they're taking themselves out of their own power, and they're saying, I'm listening to someone else now tell me what to do. And this is exactly where the guides were telling us years ago, we don't want you to get in this situation where you use us as a crutch. And I see that happening right now. And I think that part of what I just said with the discernment, and remember what you said about how the Starseed community, who give off this portrayal of light and love, but then we see so many fights occurring, and you and I and many others are taken back and say, what's going on here? Why are people fighting? Isn't the our objective the same? Like, don't we want the same things? Don't we want unity and freedom for all of us? And but I think that because each one of us in the collective is being tested, how each one of us reacts to it, we're all seeing it play out in real time. So if there's a person that's vulnerable or has an ego that might be challenged by or tempted by money or fame or likes, that's where we're seeing it right now, because a lot of people who have seemingly turned are those that seem to care the most about the money, and their status now, as this sudden celebrity, and they like the feeling of that fame, and then it clouds their judgment, and then their shadow side takes over, and now the ego is feeding that. But then some of them are looking at everyone else saying, well, my guide told me to do this, my guide said this, my guide said that. So I really want to put that out there, as another tool of discernment, where people need to really reflect on what they're saying and say, your guides would never tell you to do something that would be purposely hurtful to someone else. If it feeds your ego, then it's likely your own wanting. And if that's the case, then just take responsibility and say, you know what? I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't trust you anymore. I'm going to make this decision because I think it's best, as opposed to saying, well, my guide told me to do it, so I'm going to do it. I just feel like it's a tricky path. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And also I wanted to add, so whenever I was first starting out in learning how to communicate with the spiritual realm, I learned a lesson because I was talking to guides, but I wasn't very specific. And I had some energies kind of trick me into saying things that got me riled up. And then eventually I realized, oh, that wasn't it may have been a guide, but not a high vibration guide for my highest good. It was something else. And it got me super riled up. So even if you're hearing a voice in your head or communicating with something, you really need to make sure that it is of the highest vibration with everyone's best intentions in mind. So how I got through that was kind of clearing the energy, and then also being specific, only my higher self or my star family of the highest love and light, or my guides of the highest love and light, can communicate with me. That's all I'm connecting with. That's all I'm communicating with. And then after that happened, all the interference and all the wonky stuff stopped happening.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about our mind. It's our mindfulness, and our intention is the most important thing. And, I have so many clients that say, oh, I communicate with Archangel Michael. And I'm like, super great. I love that. But then they'll start telling me, oh, he got mad at me the other night. He told me I was bad and this and that. And I'm like, stop right there. No Archangel, no angel, no star family member, no spirit guide, no ancestor is going to put you down. When you're out of this 3D reality and you are from the highest aspect of yourself, and you're communicating to someone here on earth, you would never talk to them that way. They only will say things that is in alignment for your highest good. And they gently guide us. They don't tell us what to do. They don't shame us. They encourage us. So it's completely the opposite. So I'm so glad you said that, because people need to be careful who they ask to talk to, because it could be an Archangel Michael fake, it could be something, some being that is pretending to be and look like and act like. And then once they get your trust, then they'll start saying things that make you question your ability to think or do things you wouldn't normally do. And that's the other thing, to answer your first question. That's a big issue right now with what I'm seeing is there's so many spirits out there that are just running rampant because they are desperately looking for hosts, because so many people are awakening. So they're losing those hosts, and now they're trying to find the ones that are weak and vulnerable. And if people aren't standing in their power and they're in desperate mode and saying, please, God, please, guides, help me. I'm desperate. I don't know what to do. When you put yourself out there and you ask in that state and you are in a vibration of fear and desperation, you will get that match, and it will be an entity that will fit that, but they'll pretend to be God or whatever you've asked for. And we have to be really careful right now.
Right. Yeah. And I just always clarify, even if I see, like, I see visions a lot. That's how I get a lot of my information, and then I'll feel, a vibe whenever I see a new being. If I'm not sure about it, I clarify. I'm only connecting or communicating with a being of the highest love and frequency, benevolent, rattle it all off. So if you're not that, you got to go. Bye.
Yes, that's it. Something terrible. I really got duped a couple of years ago. I'm not going to say any details, but I got duped really big time by somebody that I thought was very authentic in the spiritual community. And I really, truly trusted this person. And I was burned by them. Okay, this was a little bit ago. And then my guides one day did tell me, Sherri, next time you're in a situation where you feel vulnerable and you want to trust somebody, ask them to show you their true form. Because sometimes we get excited about a new friendship, that's our new connection, and we put our guard down. And I did that one night. I did this exercise where I asked this person, I called on their higher aspect of themselves, because it doesn't matter where they are in the world. And I said, show me your true form. And I was like, in an instant, they have to. I saw the scariest, demonic, witchy, creepy energy I've ever, and it laughed at me, and it growled in a, and I was like, oh my God. And they showed me, I asked, and they had to show me what their true form was. And the crazy thing is, to this day, when I see that person on interviews or anywhere, that's all I see now. I can't see their true face. That's what I see. So anybody has the ability to do that. Anybody watching this, if they're concerned about a neighbor, a friend, a coworker, or even somebody they see on YouTube that's portraying themselves as this beautiful spiritual guide out there, including the two of us, and say, show me your true form, and they will see what is actually there, the energetic projection of that person.
That's awesome. I love that. Now, everybody go and do that tonight.
Try it.
Yeah, test it out. That's awesome. And yeah, I wanted to add about the entities coming out to play at this time because of all of the chaos and how quickly so many people are waking up. And then you've got with all the chaos and negative emotions and negative energies, things are coming out to feed off on that. I had an experience in Sedona on the night of the fall equinox, where I was with a group and we had just gotten to the Airbnb, and we, connected and sent light up, and we did like a short meditation and opened up. And then immediately I started feeling, I started getting intrusive thoughts, fearful, intrusive thoughts. I got a few of them in a row. And then I was like, ooh, that was kind of weird, because I felt so good before that, so high vibe. And I was like, maybe it was just something random. Whenever I went to bed that night, I realized it was an entity. I had a dream. I made myself fall asleep really quick. I had a dream that it was demonic entities. They told me through the dream it was demonic entities. They were trying to kind of bring me down. I woke up from that and had to do a lot of clearing and cleansing and all of that. And I got rid of it. But that's why they woke me up. You can't leave this thing in here all night. But mentioning that because, I asked, what did I do wrong? What did we do wrong? We didn't create sacred space. We just got to this new place in the heart of Sedona, which is high energy, and there can be positive and negative. So I actually saw some negative beings that night, which is more than I've ever. It was pretty, and probably the most intense that I've ever experienced, and this was just recently.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. And somebody else I was with in another room, whenever we woke up in the morning, he asked, how did you sleep? And I told him, some negative stuff happened. And he was like, me too. Come to find out, he told me that he felt something touching his leg, and then he heard a growl.
Ew.
Yeah. And he like punched it around the same time, 1:00 in the morning. So we did another cleansing and clearing, and we got rid of it. But it was just it was a lesson learned. I knew my guides were there. So whenever I woke up, they tried getting me with the fear as I was clearing them out, working on clearing them out, calling in assistance. I heard some noises in my room, like it was trying to distract me. And I was like, is God or my guides here? And then I felt a moment of peace, like, yes, we're here. And it was just a big lesson so that I could share that with people and let people know, just be mindful, create sacred space, and don't be fearful. And it was also a lesson in stepping into my power, overcoming it and stepping into my power. So it was a lesson. They were my guides, and God was there the whole time. They wouldn't have let it hurt me, but it was, just a big test, really a big lesson.
Yeah. And I think it's important that you experience that, and you're talking about it today, and maybe in other circles too, because I think a lot of people are, that are waking up are open and looking for, inviting in, good spirits, right? But then you have to be careful, you have to be very specific about your intention. You got to create a grid of protection, because there is a lot of 3D interference that is, I think it's heightened right now. That is causing, it's causing a lot of issue, and a lot of more people are having nightmares. And this woman sent me an email the other day. I can't remember what country she was in, maybe Norway. Honestly, I don't remember. And she sent me a picture. I wish I had it. I would share it with you right now. But it was a picture that her grandchild had sent her of these beings that torment this kid. And she asked him to draw. Can you draw what they look like? He calls them the red-eyed beings. Well, I have done dozens and dozens of interviews, and I've been talking about the red-eyed beings for 3 to 4 years now. And I talk about it in my book, that's what the children are always telling me about, that they see. And I'm like, how is it that a child and clear across the world is seeing the same thing as another? And they're all seeing it. They're all describing it in the same way. But this was the first time I had such a vivid description of it that was drawn by like an 8-year-old boy. And it was just, it was a black figure, almost like humanish, like limbs and a body, torso and stuff. And it was really scary. And it had these big red eyes. And she said, he calls them the red-eyed beings. I said, that's crazy. So he is, in his mind, he's naming it the red-eyed beings. He doesn't realize that all the kids are calling it that. I mean, it's an obvious observation. It has red eyes. But there are a lot of them. They're shadow beings. So shadow beings are basically minions. They're minion energy, and they don't really have a consciousness. They're connected to a hive mentality, and they're just really here in this grid to torment and bother people, but they tend to target children more. But if there are beautiful, innocent people out and they're calling in energy in Sedona or in somebody's basement and with a group of people, or at a healing center or whatever, and people don't protect themselves, they are going to be one of the first ones to come and explore. And some of them are curious. Sometimes they don't actually have malintentions necessarily. Some of them aren't that bad. They just they're just dark entities, and they are lost and just looking for something to do. And then they'll attach. But then once they attach to you, then their energy will start to connect with yours. And like the symbiosis can occur, and then they get into your thoughts. And then, like you said, I thought something that wasn't something I would normally say. And then sometimes what happens is if you don't connect to it like you did and realize right away that's not me, most people just think that they're in a really shitty mood, excuse my language, and they think, oh gosh, and then they really succumb to it. And then that thing will really attach. And that's why your guides woke you up and they're like, don't let this thing stay with you all night. Because when you're in the dream state, you're even more vulnerable, because now you're in the astral, and that's how they connect with you. And, and it happens to the best of us all the time. Even last night, just literally last night, I had this nightmare. It's not whatever, not nightmare, but I was attacked. And I could feel this shadow being trying to connect with me. And in the dream, it was almost lucid. I remember myself saying, no, and I was fighting. I was like, get away from me. But it was very lucid because I was like partly awake. And I mean, I had that paralysis feeling where I was trying to move, but I couldn't, and I knew that my soul was trying to re-enter my body and wake up. And then I did. And I called in the animal kingdom, and I did this whole thing this ritual that I do for protection. Mm-hmm. But see, I didn't ask for anything. I was just sleeping. It can happen anytime. So staying diligent right now is really important. Spiritual hygiene, grounded, and being very specific in our intentions is important.
Right. And setting sacred space. That was the thing I asked while this was going on. And it was so instant. Like we all put our hands on this crystal, shot light up, was opening up. And then within seconds, those thoughts happened. It was so fast. But I forgot what I was just going to say. I wanted to ask you in the astral. Oh yeah, setting sacred space. I asked, what did I do wrong? They showed me a circle, and I usually always set sacred space before doing. And you can do that by calling in the archangels of the north, east, southwest. That's how I do it. I do that in the beginning of all of my activations on YouTube and meditations to have them come and you can visualize, light, do a circle. Do things like that whenever you're meditating or whatever. But so with the nightmares or the astral state, what would you recommend to people to help kind of prevent that, since you're more open in the astral?
Yeah, my favorite is to call upon the animal kingdom. People don't realize how powerful the animal kingdom is. And I did a video on this on my channel a couple weeks back saying how to call on the animal kingdom. And what you do is you simply call upon them right before you go to sleep. It's just you're laying in bed, you're about to close your eyes, and you don't have to do anything special other than call on them. And you're going to call on them for different aspects. So physically, well, they're not physically going to come, but energetically to physically protect your space. I mean, so under your home.
You might see an owl.
They could. And actually people will see. I've had people say, someone said they heard an elephant in my backyard, and I had called it. So it can happen. But like you call on the land animals to be, so the bears and the elephants and the giraffes and the wolves, whatever you want to surround your home and underneath your home. So snakes and insects, and you're calling on an army, and then the air, which would be the birds and dragons, whatever you feel. So it's very quick. It doesn't take long. And then you assign one to be in each room. So like my son has a cheetah, my daughter has a dragon, my son has a lion, I have a lion. Like everybody has their own, and they're assigned to protect us the whole night in the astral. They're next to you when you sleep, but when they go with you. So wherever I go in the astral, it follows me, or I ask it to let me morph in, so I become that lion or whatever. And I've had people email me since then asking, oh, how do I know what animal's connected to my grandson if I want to call on them? I said, you don't have to know. That's the beautiful part. Just ask for one to come. And whatever pops in your mind, if it's an eagle or if it's a dolphin or whatever, then that's the right one. And it can change every night. And I think people don't realize the power that these animal spirits do. And our ancestors would do that. The indigenous called upon the spirit totem animals. That's where that whole concept came from, of animal totems and animal spirits. And a lot of shamans will use animals to morph into, to go into the astral realm. And so they won't go by themselves. They won't remote view as themselves. They'll morph as an eagle and then go and have the eagle go to wherever they're trying to remote view. And so I really feel like that's a very powerful way to protect yourself right now, is to merge with an animal spirit before you go to bed. Of course, there are other things in your intention. You're stern and you say you do not consent. I've been teaching a lot of children just say before they go to bed, I do not consent to any 3D interference, any attachments, any shadow beings or any entities that are not of my highest good to be able to connect with me while I sleep at night. And they can say it in any way. You don't have to say it how I just said it. Just basically, I do not consent. And you can follow that with anything you want. So you put that intention before you go to bed. You can visualize yourself, if you don't want to use the animals, in a very specific grid of geometrical pattern before you go to sleep that is so high vibrational that only high vibrational spirits can commune with you. So your guides, angels, that sort of thing. But anything that is low vibrational literally can't penetrate your grid. So you're inside, you're fully protected. They can't. And I had a client, this is crazy. He did this, and he does work with Archangel Michael. And I taught him to make sure and how to call on the right one and the highest good and everything. And he did everything I told him to do. And he said, because he was having nightmares, he was getting attacked. And he said, oh my God, I had the same nightmare the next night after I did what you told me to do with the grid. And he said, but it was crazy. I felt myself in a bubble. And I saw hands and things trying to, almost like a sheet where you're camping and somebody's like messing with the tent, but they can't get in. And he was like, it was the scariest thing at first, but then I realized they couldn't get inside. And the tone of the dream changed completely. And then they went away. And he's like, it worked. And he was surprised. And I'm like, yes, that's the thing. If we were taught all of this stuff as children, imagine what we would be able to do right now. But we're all learning this together and we're sharing it with each other. But they all work. It's all in your intention and just standing in your power. But the animals, I think, are my favorite.
Right. Yeah. The animals started coming to me early in my journey, and I love the animals. I see them a lot, different types of animals. So that's a tiger, a wolf. I see hawk, eagle, lion, dragons, great for protection. And in Pocahontas, you'll see in Pocahontas, whenever she's running, she calls on the wolves to help her run faster. And suddenly the spirit wolves show up on the side of her. I thought that was a really cool scene. Yeah, it was awesome. I wanted to ask you real quick. So you mentioned calling on the right Archangel Michael. So from my understanding, there are different frequency versions of everything. There, on a spectrum, there's lower frequency versions of us, higher frequency versions of us. And I have had some people ask me about certain like archangels, if they were bad. And I mean, I don't think so, but you had just said you told them to call on a high frequency for the highest good. So would you want to speak on that? I guess I just kind of explained it, but do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, well, because it's really important. Like I said, because I've had so many clients tell me that they connect with Archangel Michael or even an angel or anybody, a guide, and then they tell them to do bad things. Or, I mean, I had this woman scare me, and she said that, I mean, I was afraid for her and I wasn't afraid. But she said, oh, he's giving me impure thoughts and I'm thinking about my children in a sexual way. And this woman, I knew her, like there's no way that would ever even pop in her mind. And she thought about hurting her husband. This is Archangel Michael in this example. And I said, I don't think you're communicating with Archangel Michael. And she got mad at me and she said, how dare you? And I was like, okay, this woman is being controlled. I have since cut off communication because there was no reasoning with her. I think whatever entity attached to her made her believe. And then she started emailing me stuff about how the devil is good and it's a misconception in our reality. And I was like, I said, I wish you well on your journey, but I think it's best that we not. So I haven't spoken to her in about a year now. But the point is that it started innocently with her thinking she was connecting with Archangel Michael, and it wasn't. And then look at where she is. I don't even know what she's doing right now. And God bless her and her children. I hope everybody's okay. But she was convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that the devil was good and all of these things. And I've even had people say they're having a sexual relationship with Archangel Michael, like countless. Like I can't even count to you how many people have told me that they have sex with Archangel. So you want to make sure if you're calling upon Archangel Michael, you want to make sure you're specific in your intention. I'm calling on, and the way I do it every single day, I call upon Archangel Michael. That's only in the alignment with my highest good and humanity's highest good, that stands in the light of God or anything like that, the highest frequency, because then you're calling on the right aspect or the right consciousness of Archangel Michael, as opposed to, oh, I'm calling out to Archangel Michael. And then literally any dozen entities could come to you and pretend to be Archangel Michael. And if you're not clear that they need to be in resonance with your highest good only, and they have to be of the light or a high frequency, and be specific about what you're asking for. Same with Mother Mary, same with Kuan Yin, same with Yeshua, Christ consciousness, anybody you're calling on. And even when I work with my spirit guides and my soul family, I say, I reiterate every time I call on my soul family that is of the highest, my highest good only. When I work with clients, every time before I start with a client, I say, I call in my client's soul family that only has messages for her highest good and my highest good only. I make sure for both of us. so that it doesn't bypass her to get to me with false information. Because see how they can be tricky like that. They'll give me the information to give to her. That's that, you know, they try to get around our free will. So you just have to be specific, but don't be, you know, in fear. And I think right now is another difficult period of this time of year is Halloween. I took my kids to look at Halloween costumes the other day. And they have this whole middle section on Ouija boards, pentagrams, witchcraft, this and that. And I'm like, oh gosh, this is the time of year that kids will get these Ouija boards and try them out. And they have all these candles that, like, get the whole set, get the cards and everything. And they don't realize the energy that's been put into those being manufactured is not for our highest good either. So there's a lot of nefarious energy going on this time of year on top of everything else. So people really need to be diligent and be very connected to their higher self, use discernment, and be very specific about their intention and who they're calling in every single time. Don't forget, because it's that one time you forget that sometimes something will come through.
Yep. Just making an automatic of the highest light, of the highest love and light for my highest good each time.
Every time.
So going on to, well, I also wanted to ask you, so we'll talk about interference a little bit more, but somebody had asked me the other day, how do you know when you're in the 5D? And I know you posted a video feeling, I thought it was really interesting. I listened to it last night about feeling stuck between two different realities. So what would you say to somebody, like, how do you know when you're in the 5D?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not a physical thing. It's a perception thing. So I think a lot of people are teetering between the two realities right now because of their life circumstances, where they feel like they've had this oasis in their home and it's beautiful energy. They've created a grid. It feels very sacred, maybe even their property too. And then unfortunately they have to drive down the street to Target or Walmart or the grocery store or wherever store they go to. And then, so now they're stepping into this other dimension where they were in this density of consciousness at home in this fifth dimensional reality they've created for themselves. Now they've stepped into this third dimension, into this third density of consciousness, or a mixed bag of 2D, even 3D, 4D, 5D, a mixed bag of densities of consciousness. And it can be quite frustrating for people because then they completely are caught off guard, or they feel heavy or uncertain, and then they can't even go out in public anymore. And many people are forced all day long to go back and forth between two realities. Maybe they have children at schools. Maybe they have to go to work in a toxic environment and they have no other choice here. I have to make money, Sherri. This is my job. So then I'm in 3D all day, and then I come home and I'm in 5D. So this is kind of what I see is happening. But the most important thing to recognize for everybody is it's not the physical reality. It's your perception. How are you handling and navigating all of this? Where is your mindset? How do you treat other people? Do you still have compassion and empathy? Is your ego low? Are you still feeling of service to others? Do you still have a positive outlook for the most part? Are you sucked in when you go into 3D? Because that is the most challenging. Because some people are still, I'm in love and light, but then when I'm around negative people, I get sucked into it and I become negative. And then there are others that are able to maintain some level of integrity and stability and balance, even when they're in the most negative situations. And that's how you know. The more you can maintain that fifth density consciousness, regardless of where you are, if you find yourself getting triggered by the person who cuts you off. I used to get, and that was me. I used to have such road rage because I used to race cars and I just thought I was Michelle Rodriguez, and I was like me, Fast and the Furious, cutting people off.
I would love to see that.
Oh my God. Yeah. There's some videos out there, I'm sure, somewhere, but now, like, I just like laugh at people. I'm like, go, like, if you really need to go, like, it's completely different. So it's like, how are you triggered less by things that you used to be triggered by? Do people, you see somebody rude in the grocery store, do you like feel like, oh my God, it sets you off? Or are you just like, oh, I feel bad for that person, I hope they're okay? Like, how is your overall perception of the world and how you carry yourself and how you look at things and your perspective and how you react and how triggered you are? And that will give you a better foundation to know where you are. So it's not necessarily your physical reality, because we can't change it. But I did a whole video recently on a new level of 5D pregnancy and this in between realities. And I think that more and more people are truly stepping into the fifth dimension, actually a majority of the time. And they are on a different timeline, and they're experiencing things differently than people in their life that are doing the exact same thing. And I'm seeing it all the time. And they're like, oh, I didn't see it that way. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Did that happen? They're like, yeah, we were in the same place. And this person's oblivious to it. It's like you're cruising along, but in different dimensions. Because remember, dimensions are in the same space. It's just a different level of perception. That's why the density is more important, because how is your awareness? What can you see? That's your density of perception. So if you're fifth density, then you see through the illusion, you don't get fooled, and you see the greater good. You see more beauty than everyone else can see. And you can still be in a low dimensional field and still see that. So it's all about the density of consciousness. I hope that made sense, but I feel like more and more people are experiencing that kind of seesaw back and forth. But if you're able to seesaw back and forth, but remain positive and balanced throughout it more and more, or it's getting easier for you, then you're on the right path. Like you're really doing it. Like you're really living it and embodying it. And it's kind of, it's a challenge every day. It takes repetition.
Yeah, I love that answer. I was wondering, so recently for me, I'm pretty good about that. But recently for me, I've really been having to deep dive into some very, very dark topics, like no avoiding it. It's part of what I'm supposed to learn, and part of, what's going on this planet that nobody, that is being kept a secret, some of those very dark things. So how do you dip into that and remain, I guess, positive, or keep your vibe high? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you
No, I totally understand. And I have to do it every day, because I never, when someone books a session with me, all I see is their name, number, and email, right? I have no idea what country they're in, or what their background is, or even why they're contacting me. So I never know what to expect. And oftentimes I have sessions with people that are in a real state of trauma, or feeling very lost, or I look into their past lives and I see some very awful things that I'm not going to say. And I don't even want to see that. So I have to get to a point where I politely ask their guides ahead of time, please don't show me visually anything that I don't need to see. That's not of my highest good. Like, make it so that they get their message, but we don't have to be brought down in vibration as a result of it. So I deal with it all the time. I've seen some really awful things, like I said, that I'd rather not see. Rather not have seen. So I think that a lot of us have signed up as starseeds to be warriors of change. Now, remember, warriors don't always have to be fighting. They're warriors of a new movement, pioneering, breaking down paradigms, rebuilding them, exposure. That's what we're seeing right now as what's the word? What's the word everyone's saying right now? I just blanked. Where we're all learning. We're all learning the truth. Anyways, there's a word for it. I can't think of it right now.
Awakening? Revolution?
Disclosure. Just everyone wants disclosure. Everyone wants this information to get out, but there's also this whole other side of, okay, this is going to trigger a lot, and it's going to be very challenging for a lot of people at the same time. And so I think, it all goes back to how strong are you in your knowing. How much are you doing to keep your vibration high and your mindset focused on, okay, everything that I do is in the highest good of all involved, all parties involved, of myself and all parties involved, however you want to say it. And I just keep reminding myself every day, whatever it is that I work on, okay, is this in alignment with humanity's highest good? Is this something that I have signed up to work on to help expose this particular thing? And some people are in it way more. I mean, there are a lot of truthers out there that are like in the trenches and really putting themselves on purpose in the 3D to awaken people. So they're talking about the real heavy stuff. I won't talk about that, because I don't want to do that. That's not part of my journey. But there are people that is part of their journey, and God bless them, because they're doing important work as well. So I just have to remind people to stay diligent in, is this in the highest good of humanity for me to bring this information forward right now? Is this in alignment with my true purpose? And you keep checking in with yourself. But the problem is, if you don't continue your inner work and grounding and using discernment and learning the lessons and forgiving and being less judgmental, all of those things, everything is connected. So if you stay kind of on point with all of that, then you're more likely to see, okay, I think I made the point here. I think I need to stop. But some people don't. And then they keep going with it. They keep driving the point. They keep bringing that to the surface of our awareness. So there is no one answer for that. You have to be able to use your own discernment to say, okay, this is in the highest alignment, or the information you're projecting out, that the people who receive this information, it's in their highest good, but it's not detrimental to their vibration. And you just keep reiterating, because how you energetically present information is how it's perceived. So if you're in a negative, that's why I don't like truthers who are like doomsday, negative, because then the people are going to receive that information in fear. And then they're going to be in fear because it was given out in fear. I prefer those that, remain a little bit more positive and optimistic. Oh, this is all happening, but look what we can do about it. I like people who are problem solvers, not let's lay out the problems and complain about it. At least that's my style. It's like, let's talk about it and let's bring it out there. And then what can we do about it? What are the solutions? And I think that makes a good kind of disclosure, if that's the right word.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I really like that. And I like continuously checking in with yourself. Like, I'm a very happy, kind of like peppy, bubbly, smiley person, focusing on the positive, the inner work, all of that. And yeah, recently, my mission has taken a turn that I would have never expected, diving deep into like SSP memories, things like that, for example. And that's, trauma, like you said too. So you have to heal and work on that. And I like how you said that the disclosure itself, because some of these things are so messed up, and some of us have been through these things and we don't even remember it. It can be very triggering for people. So it has to be a process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One thing at a time.
Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting there. I wanted to ask you about 5D pregnancies too, but I don't know. Maybe we should talk about that on another one. Or maybe could you explain that briefly? That's kind of an in-depth thing though. Maybe we can talk about that another time.
That might have to be a whole, that could take 20 minutes just explaining it. And there's so much more that I'm learning about it that it's layered. Let's do a part 2.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, you mentioned a little bit about that on one of your recent videos, and I was like, whoa, like I never put it that way, and it put some dots together for me. So, yeah, let me see if there was anything else. So any more on like 3D interference in your book? Do you want to share a little bit about that, or is there any other type of 3D interference you're kind of seeing? Well, tons.
There's more than I've talked about, of course. There's probably an infinite, and there's things that we don't even have names for, or even we're not even able to discern how to explain it, let alone talk about it. So I think it goes deep. But in my book, the Starseeds in the Great Awakening, the book, I try to dedicate the second part of the book to, all right, these are all the things that I have discovered through my sessions that are really important and such common things that people wouldn't even realize. I can't tell you how many people resonated with the black box technology section and the mirrors. And I started getting emails from people sharing their stories about portals in their TV opening up and things coming out. And I shared my experience very detailed in the book about what happened to me one time in a hotel room with the portals and the TV. It was very traumatic for me. And I think that it's helping people, one, recognize, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. I think that this reality is so geared on making people feel like they're crazy, and they can't talk to anybody that they know about certain things. They keep it to themselves. And then when they hear somebody talk about it on an interview or on a radio, or they see something similar in a movie, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. And I think that's kind of why I felt it was so important to write that, because it's people that know me that, and I've read my first two books. My first two books are very spiritual, very like uplifting, very like how to help yourself, how to release trapped emotions, how to forgive, how to understand your spiritual side. And I talk about children in the second book. This book is like completely, and I had to really go in a place of bravery and my own self-empowerment to put myself out there, because I didn't know how people were going to respond, especially coming from me, who's up until this point been pretty like I try to remain neutral. I don't like to fuel the fire. I feel like I'm more of a peacekeeper type of person. I want to help people. And I said, this is going to trigger a lot of people. And I had to have my own reflection with my higher self, but also my guides. Is this in the highest good of humanity for me to write this? And I checked in, I can't tell you how many times, and at the end before I published it. Okay, is this going to be received well? Is this something that is necessary for the collective right now? And I kept getting such a strong yes that I said, okay, I'm going to trust it. And it's been out 6 months now, and I have had nothing, knock on wood, nothing but positive feedback, and people have said, thank you so much. Like, this was the best thing. You said it in a way that really makes sense, and and it's connected a lot of dots for me. And so I am so grateful that is actually now what's happening and what's occurring. But I think the most important thing is for people to recognize that we have the ability to discredit the 3D interference, to break it down. And it doesn't work if just simply by us knowing about it. And that's why everything you read in the book, I said, great, now that you know, you don't need to be in fear, because now all you have to do is say, I don't consent. So you don't have to get rid of your TVs, your phones, the mirrors in your house. You just have to say, hold on a second, I don't consent. Or if you start feeling like you're hearing thoughts in your head that you want to do something irrational, there's a lot of suicide. I've been getting a lot of suicide. I've been talking about that recently, where a lot of clients are suddenly suicidal, and all having the exact same specific vision of going into the woods and killing themselves in the exact same way. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, how can I just have all these people in a row tell me the exact same thing? And then I did like a live a couple of weeks back. I said, this is really important. If this is you and you felt this way, this is voice of God technology. This is another method of 3D interference where they are emitting frequencies with negative affirmations, negative visions. And if you're in a state of awareness or vulnerability that could pick it up, you are going to see yourself doing that, or hurting somebody else, or thinking horrible things. And you need to know that it's not you. It's likely not you. Of course, I can't say that 100%, but a lot of people that I talked to that were experiencing that said they were afraid to tell anybody. And then when they knew it wasn't something that they would normally think about, and it freaked them out. And they said, when you said that, the fear was gone, and I never thought about it again. So I feel like the biggest part of our evolution right now, and our reclaiming our sovereignty, because we never lost it. We just forgot we had it. Like they programmed us into thinking we're not sovereign, but we are. And now we're reclaiming that sovereignty. And all we have to do is to combat anything that they send our way is by standing in our power and saying, oh, I don't consent to that. And it doesn't work. Poof, it's that fast. And so I think that there's a lot of 3D interference right now.
Yeah, I definitely want to ask you more on that, but I also wanted to ask, so like saying no, becoming aware of it, awareness is a big, big part of it, most of it. And then, saying that you don't consent, but also a cleansing and clearing would probably be good too, because what if your say like the voice of God technology is getting you in a negative mindset, feeding thoughts and visions, and then that lowers your frequency, and maybe like an entity, it's something else attached to you. So do you think like paired with like a really good cleansing, clearing, maybe a salt bath, sage, all of that, just to might as well just try everything all at once.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. It's about repetition and reprogramming and getting yourself out of the loop. So in the third part of the book, I talk about the different ways to help you spiritually cleanse, and so, like listing salt baths, going outside, calling on the earth and elementals, calling on animal spirits, doing your own clearing, not depending on somebody else to do it for you, and then putting yourself again in a state of surrender and needing somebody else to do a clearing for you. Then you can stand in your power and do certain things and clear yourself, because the vibration that you're in will dictate what's around you, your entourage. So if you're able to get yourself in a higher vibration by doing grounding, salt baths, eating a clean diet, cutting back or just stopping the alcohol intake and drugs, etc., shifting the people you hang out with, creating boundaries, forgiveness, like doing all of these things, your vibration is going to start to go up, and those entities do not like that. So if you remain strong enough in your power, then they will just leave. They will give up and they will go to somebody else. And then you don't have to pay somebody hundreds of dollars to do a clearing if you could get it done yourself. And it's so much more empowering if you can really make the change yourself. Now, I understand there are some people who probably have generations of trauma and they are deep rooted, like programming, MK Ultra in some, or some of these are SSP survivors and enslavement and other layers. They need help. They definitely could use help. And that's why there are people out there that do that, because we are here to help guide people. I mean, otherwise no one would need sessions with me or you or anybody, because then everyone can do it for themselves. But until then, we have people like us that could coach people on how to do it for themselves. You just want to be wary of those spiritual gurus that keep you coming back and saying you need to pay thousands of dollars and you have to do it this particular way. And then if they make you feel like you need them, then they're the wrong person for you. So if anyone out there is getting help, it should be with somebody that makes you feel empowered, that makes you feel like motivated and strong and resilient on your own. And they're just coaching and guiding you to get better, but you're the one doing the work. That's the right person for you. So just be wary, because there's a lot of fakes out there that are taking people's money left and right and not helping them in any way. And if anything, there are a lot of spiritual vampires out there that claim to be healers, and then they actually loosh their client's energy and make it worse for them. So we got to be careful with that.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever I have clients, I give them homework. I'm like, now you do this, do that. This will, help. I wanted to ask about the mirror real quick. So what's up with the mirrors?
So the mirrors is another portal technology, and it works on emotion. So the portals in your TV, the black box technology works off of a frequency, but your mirrors work off of your emotions, which is also a frequency, but it's different technology. So the mirrors portals become active with two emotions: shame and ego. So people and there's a reason why there's mirrors all over the place. Everywhere we go, there's constantly mirrors everywhere. Because if you look at the mirror with ego, meaning you are so full of yourself, you think you're the most beautiful or hot thing in the world, and you actually can activate the egocentric emotional mirror portal through your high ego, where you think that you're just, because that's what entities feed off of, is that energy, that loosh that you give off when you have a high ego and you're like, oh, I look better than everyone else. It activates that portal and entities can come through. And it also works off shame. So they try to target the population by either making them have big egos and they want to look like the celebrities and they, dress like it, and they look at the mirror in a very unhealthy way. Or if they can't attain that, then they look in the mirror and they have shame because they don't look that way and they're not pretty enough. They're not handsome enough. They don't have enough muscles. They're not skinny enough, whatever it may be. So if you're looking at the mirror with shame and you don't like your body and you cry, you might avoid looking at the mirror altogether because you hate it. It's even another layer past shame. That activates the shame portal, and then entities can come through that portal as well. So it's just another way to mess with us and to be able to open up portals where entities can loosh or connect to us, really without us knowing, based on our emotional mindset. If we're too egoic, or now, of course, if you are at the gym and you're checking yourself out and, seeing if you're looking, how your muscles look when you're lifting weights, like that's fine. Like, I don't want people to feel like they can't look in the mirror and think that they look attractive. But it's the extreme in each direction that they're going for. The extreme, I'm the best, or I hate myself. That's what they're targeting. Everything else in between that's innocent is okay. But the mirror portals, children know about it, and they see entities in the mirrors all the time. And the kids tell me about it. And there's a reason why they have scary movies with entities in the mirror portals. They're telling us that they're there, but you have to be at a certain dimension to be able to, you have to perceive them. And most of us don't.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I've heard of, there's something where you like stare in the mirror. Do you know what that is? Like,
well, I don't know which one, but there's the Bloody Mary. I won't say it. I don't want to bring energy to it, but there's the one. And the reason I'm talking about that one is because when I was I think I talked about this in my book. When I was a child, they had that whole thing going on where if you say that a certain number of times at the mirror with the lights off, this specific entity will come through. I didn't go to the bathroom for 2 years in my public school as a kid because I was so terrified of that, because I didn't like that stuff. And I couldn't even go in the bathroom for years. Fast forward all of these years, my son had a friend over a couple of months ago, and I heard this kid in the other room saying, "Skylar, go to the bathroom, turn the light off, and call on." No. And I was like, "Oh, heck no." I ran out there. I was like, "No, like, stop it." I said, "That's not cool." And I had to tell them, like, don't play like that. That's not, and like, I had PTSD. Like, I felt like me getting triggered. But they're still talking about it to this day. And I'm like, how are we so anyways, these are real things. We don't want to focus too much energy because we don't want to create fear around it. So I don't talk about it. But if it comes up, I'm like, oh yeah, heck yeah, they're there.
Yeah, I was also wondering if there was something, like, I think there's something positive too whenever you look at yourself in the mirror that can happen. Like maybe your face can change or something. Do you know what that's about?
Yeah. So if you're looking at yourself with a humble nature and of a high vibrational light, you can actually invoke what your true form is. And people can do this exercise where you stand in the mirror and surrender to ask what your true form is, and ask for yourself. You got to be ready for that one though. And you have to be in a very balanced, humble state with no ego and no shame, no, like, but I'm not that pretty, or like, you can't be, you have to just be like, I'm in full acceptance, and you can see what your true form is. And it might not be physical, like you may not see a physical shift where you morph into something else, but you perceive it through your third eye, and you kind of see an overlap of, maybe you have an angelic presence, or maybe you see an aura show up around you, or maybe a Lyran being stands next to you, and that could be you, or an Arcturian or something like that. You'd be surprised what shows up.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had an experience. I was taking a bath one day, and I looked up, like very relaxing, connecting, meditating or whatever in this bath. And then I looked up and saw in the silver, like the handle or whatever, the reflection, and my reflection was a being, Talia, one of my star family. She has no hair, beautiful, bald, light blue skin. And that's the first ET I ever met. We were very, very close. And I saw her in my reflection. I was like, oh my God.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. So I kind of would like to experiment with that and see what else happens.
Yeah, I recommend people try it, but just make sure you're like in a good place to do that. If you go in there in fear and some bad entity shows up and you run out of there screaming, like, it's not going to be a positive experience. So you have to be in a good place though.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And then don't forget to say that you do not consent to anything coming out of anything negative coming out of any of those portals, or closing any negative portals, stuff like that.
And you don't have to put I had people that read my book and say like they wanted to put, actually at Journey to Truth conference. So you and I were at that conference and I presented, and I had people tell me after the next day that I had one person tell me they put their TV down on the table flat. It was a flat screen. And then I had another person say they put their blanket over their mirror. Oh. And I said, okay, I got to tell everybody, like, don't be in fear. All you have to do is say, like you said, I don't consent to any portals in my home, anything that's not of my highest good or my family's highest good. And you just encompass all of the technology, your computers, your monitors, your phones, your TVs, your mirrors, everything, and just say, I don't consent to any negative portals in my home that are not of my highest good. And that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to get rid of the TVs and the mirrors. You don't have to go that far.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you would like to say? I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up. Anything else you want to share about your book and any last words?
Wow, we talked about a lot of things today. It was really fun. If you want to get my new book, Starseed and the Great Awakening, it's on Amazon, and it's also now on Barnes and Noble for those people who are reluctant to support Amazon, which I understand. It's
awesome.
now available there. Stay tuned, because I just started my part 2 to that book. It's called Courage to Change: The Freedom Movement, and it's all about what us as starseeds are doing as a collective to change, and how we're not consenting, and the fall of the 3D grid and the dark players, which is what I refer to as the dark ones in my book. And it's going to be jam packed with a lot of new information that I'm learning in my sessions now. So I'm really excited about it. We're constantly putting new classes at Aramis Creative Learning Center up on the schedule every month. We try to get really creative and add new ones. So we have classes for adults and we have classes for children. So please check them out, because we've got some really, really great ones. And then lastly, my newest children's book will be coming out at the end of this month, and it's Divinely Guided Children, the series. And this time is about the chakras. It's based off one of the cartoons that we did over a year and a half ago, but we're just now getting to the book version of the cartoon. So I'm really excited to put that one out.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I'd like to add, my friend Katie recently took one of the adult classes on the Ascended Masters, and she said it was really good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I saw her at the beginning with Mark. He's a great mentor.
Yeah. Well, that is amazing. I think we had a really, really great conversation. Thank you, Sherri. And for everybody, her YouTube channel, her book link, and information will be in the description. So make sure to like this video, go give her a subscribe if you haven't already, and check out her stuff. And I will see you later, Star Brothers and Sisters.
Thank you.